So what do you say after the opening message? The theme of this entire section is to move her off the dating app. There's no good that can come from you and her talking endlessly on the dating app. Now, this whole course, as I've said a million times, is about the signal to noise ratio. And the signal to noise ratio on dating apps is terrible. And so the purpose of getting her Instagram or her phone number is you want to move her to a place where she's not overwhelmed with noise. I'm going to teach you the best way to get her Instagram or get her phone number so that you can speak off of the dating app. And we will go into what to do once you actually have her phone number or IG later. The psychology of moving her off the dating app is essentially you finally become a real person. Think about an attractive woman. She's chatting with many men on dating apps, or many men are attempting to chat with her. If you're trying to create a real connection on a dating app, you're fighting an uphill battle because in her mind, you're not really a real person yet. But once you get her phone number, for example, you've become real. The only people that text her are people she knows, people in her inner circle. So you essentially become part of her inner circle. All right, let's just get straight into it. Here's what to say to move her off the app. After your opener, she'll respond. And then you literally just say, I'm hardly on here. Do you have IG? We should chat there. That's it. It's not rocket science. Here's another example. After the opener, she says her ha ha ha. I say, I'm hardly on here. Do you have IG? We should talk there. How quickly am I going for this? Literally right after the first couple messages. So I will say my opener, she'll respond, and then I will just go for the IG or the phone number. Now, I actually usually go for the phone number first, and then I'll get the IG after the phone number. But I don't want you to get too confused right now. I have a very specific reason for why I do that, which we'll get into very soon in the IG section. Now, most of the time, if your bio is conveying high social value and your pictures are congruent with that, and you seem like someone that just has high value, she will give you her Instagram. However, there are situations where you need to take it slower. So again, in most situations, it's just one or two messages, go for IG, go for phone number. However, there are situations where you have to take it a bit slower. And how are you supposed to know when to take it slow and when to just quickly go for the IG or the number? You can tell based on how she's responding to you. For example, a great sign for taking it slower is if she asks you a question. After your opener, if she continues the conversation by asking you something, then don't just blindly go for the IG. Take it slow, answer her question, have a little bit of banter, a little bit of rapport, and then go for the IG or the phone number. I'm going to show you an example of a situation where it makes sense to take things slower. So this is a screen recording of my iPhone as I went through my Tinder. And this specific interaction is exactly what you want to be looking out for when you're trying to figure out if you should go for her IG now or wait a little bit. And I used my standard opener. And she asked me a question right after I opened her. So I used the cute/fat opener. Again, do not use this opener anymore because it is gone busto viral. Instead, use some other autocorrect fail. We talk about this in the opening message video. There are thousands of autocorrect fails on the internet. You can find ones just like this that won't get you in trouble. So anyway, she responds to my opener and she says, thank you. I'm back home in Norway, going to LA in January. How you doing? So if I were to say after this, hey, let me get your IG, let's chat there, it might work, but because she is engaging me, it just doesn't make sense to quickly go for it. So I give her some standard fluffy conversation, nothing crazy. And so the vibe that I like to give off with a lot of these conversations on dating apps is I don't really give a fuck that I'm on this app, but I'm also a smart dude and I'm fun to be around. But I'm not taking this too seriously. Just like with openers, you don't really need to quote unquote over game or oversell yourself. If she's asking me a question, this means that I have done something to display high social value that makes her intrigued about me. There's no other reason the Swedish model would match with me and then also be this enthusiastic about continuing the conversation. And if you see here, you can kind of tell by the way that she's typing all of this. Not only she's using fucking commas, exclamation points, emojis, she's asking me questions. It's just very clear that I don't need to put in a bunch of effort to make myself look cool because she already thinks I'm cool. So I'm just going to have a standard conversation with her for a bit. Let's see here. You can go ahead and read this. It's just, again, standard stuff, but I did something that this is what I do pretty frequently, actually. I'll say something like, can I ask you a random question? I'll tell you why I'm asking after you answer. And let's see, this is like a very markety thing to say. I do a lot of things like this that I've learned in marketing and business. They're called open loops, where you bring up an idea and in the prospect's mind or in her mind, she's like, okay, well, he brought up this really intriguing question, but he never like revealed the end. It's kind of like watching a movie and you don't get to see the end of it and you're like, what happened? And so that's called an open loop. And this question right here is an open loop. And then I ask my standard question. So it doesn't matter what question I'm asking. I ask my standard one. What do you think of Norwegian, guys? One of my favorite questions to ask on a date, on an app, anytime. It's just, it really gets them to think about what you're saying. It gets them to answer thoughtfully. And that's not something that women usually do on dating apps. They're not having to think about something that a guy actually asked them because most guys are fucking boring. So she says something, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter what her answer is. This is so important. So I eventually go for her IG, but the way that I ask her is critical. So if you look at her profile, it's blurred, but she labels her IG right here. In fact, that's all her profile says is her IG. And so sure, I could have just added it and not told her and said, hey, I'm going to message you on IG. Instead, I said, you seem cool. We should talk somewhere else. I'll add you on IG. And the reason that I say this is it shows social calibration. It shows that I'm socially smart. Because a lot of men, or even just people in general, they lack emotional intelligence. They don't understand that sometimes someone might feel a little bit uncomfortable about something. And so me phrasing it like this is a small indication to her that this guy might be socially intelligent. He's calibrated enough to not just message me on IG after a conversation without telling me. And so this right here is actually a template. I say this every time a girl has her IG in her profile. I will say this exact sentence. And then she is enthusiastic about it and she says, yes, sure. And we continue the conversation on IG. Let's talk about ghost recovery. Let's say you send her your opening message and she doesn't respond, which is there's a decent chance of that happening. Now, this is normal. You have to think about a girl's experience on a dating app. If she's attractive, she's getting bombarded with matches, with messages, and so you need to re-engage her so that you pop up and bump yourself to the top of her list. In terms of what you say, it's not nearly as important as the fact that you're just doing it. Re-engaging her by saying anything is 80% of the battle. You could literally just send her a question mark or a period, and that's still 80% of the battle. There's this idea in business and marketing called the 7 touches of a sales cycle. This means that for a customer to buy something, on average, they need to be interacted with about 7 times. So if you think about this in terms of email marketing, if you're on an email list and someone's trying to sell you a product like Endless Options, the average person needs to hear about it through some form, either that's through an ad, an email, a sales video, anything, about 7 times before they can actually make the decision to buy. Sure, some people buy right away, and some people take longer than 7. But on average, the point is you need to just keep re-engaging someone. Keep being persistent. Here's an example of a ghost recovery message. So at one time, I was testing this specific opener, which is, does this mean we're dating now? I think this opener is okay. I stopped using it after I realized that many men were using this opener. It was kind of like one of those banner blindness things. And so she ignored this. And I later asked her why she ignored this. And she told me that exact reason, that it's like one of those cliche openers people use on Tinder. So I sent her this: Dear Diary, cute girl vanished. Should I send a search party? Now, I actually don't know where I first heard this line, but all I do know is that we tested a bunch of flake recovery and ghost recovery text messages, and this one performed the best. So if you know who first came up with that, credit to them. I don't know who. All I can tell you is this specific message won our tests. So she says, hey Jesse, I'm still hiding, try searching for me. But basically this message got her to respond, and therefore the conversation has now been sparked. There's this idea in psychology called recency bias. For example, if I asked you what you had for breakfast today, you would probably remember. But if I asked you what you had for breakfast 4 days ago, you'd have some trouble thinking about that. This same exact thing happens when you message her. Unless you're quickly moving things forward, she'll start to forget you as she gets distracted by other messages, other apps. And here's the big thing. If she has high demand, which all attractive women do, she's not going to be scrolling down. There's this concept in marketing called below the fold. So if you go to a sales page, everything that's below this line is called below the fold. So when you first load a page, everything that you see on top is above the fold. And data has shown that most people don't even look below the fold. It's too much work. They'll just look at what's on the page. If they're interested, they'll join. If they're not, they'll just click out. Anything that's below the fold is there for the fence sitters, like people that are on the fence about buying. But most people don't look here. And the same thing is true for women that have abundance on dating apps. She's not going to be scrolling down. In fact, I'm going to play you a video right now of a girl that I was on a date with where she just started talking about this. And so she starts to pull out her phone and show me her Hinge profile, and she explains exactly this concept. I'll play it for you right now. How do you know if a guy's worth meeting up with?
It's literally luck of the draw. Like if I'm online, if I'm bored and I'm online, I'll probably look at the last like 1 or 2 people that messaged me, because obviously I'm not gonna go down.
Oh my God. So it's just like a matter of like luck of like who's like right there.
Yes.
Okay. So what does this mean? This means that you have to ping girls that ghost you. If you're not pinging them, they're just going to forget about you. It's not anything personal. She's not ignoring you because she hates you or because she thinks you're ugly. She's ignoring you because you haven't cut through the noise. You're not popping up above the fold. Now let's move on to how to banter. This is an important skill, not just for dating apps, but texting in general. And like I said earlier, some girls need you to take it slow. And being able to banter is a critical skill when it comes to taking it slow and being socially calibrated and showing her that you have high value. I'm going to go back to this conversation. This is the girl that initially ghosted me, and then I recovered by sending her this message. I'm going to quickly go through our conversation just so you can get a sense of my vibe. What I'm saying is not nearly as important as the vibe that's being portrayed. Dear Diary, cute girl vanished. Should I send a search party? Hey Jesse, I'm still hiding. Try searching for me. So right here, she's showing some playfulness. This is what humans would call flirting. And so I say, I think I found you. Are you the homeless lady in the park near the center? And so this is me throwing her a shit test. Usually this is actually a term that is used for women that are testing men, but I love to shit test women. So an example of a shit test is if you were to ask a girl for her number, she would say something back to you like, oh, are you the type of guy that just asks everyone for their phone number? Like, do you do this to every girl? That is a shit test. She's throwing something out to see how you react, to see if you're a high value man. If you're a low value man, you'll get offended, you'll get butthurt. You won't understand that she's just being playful and flirting. However, if you're a high value man, you'll throw it back at her. And that's where you get this really cool dynamic of flirting. And so she understands this because she's an attractive woman. She's probably been shit testing and has been shit tested a million times, so she knows how to play this type of game. And so she says, yes, come and kiss me. And now, I've mentioned this before, I don't like to get very sexual on dating apps or through text with girls that I have not actually been intimate with. I think it's a little bit tacky. I think it's a little bit try hard, and it kind of removes the mystery. I don't want her to feel like I'm just going to hook up with her because she's a girl or because she's being nice to me. I want her to know that she has to earn my attraction. She has to put in some effort. So the thing is, if you get too sexual over text before you've even met her, you are removing the mystery. And if you're talking about the top 1% of attractive women, they have endless options. They have thousands of guys that are willing to hook up with them. Why would you want to lump yourself into that category right away before you've even met her? But there are situations where I will do it, and I'll do it if the girl is being very, very forward or enthusiastic about being sexual through text herself. If she is, I will still attempt to stop it from happening further, but if it's a situation where it feels like she needs it, I will do it. Here, I try to just end that thread. I just do a laughing, crying emoji after she says, yes, come kiss me. And then she says, do it, please, with this. This is her, by the way, if you don't understand what's going on here, she's giving me a shit test. She wants to see how I'm going to handle this. And so I say, okay, I guess I have consent. But what's important here is I haven't asked her a question. I'm just saying, okay, I guess I have consent. almost like I don't really care, and I'm not that interested in this thread of conversation, but I'll reply. This is an example of coming from a high value frame. And so she reinitiates the conversation with a question. Have you ever tested your personality type? I say yes. Again, the reason I'm sending her these short replies is because she's showing a lot of enthusiasm here. She's asking me questions, she's keeping the conversation going. So if I were to engage in conversation with her and come across super excited, asking her a bunch of questions at this point, it's not going to be good. It's going to lower my social value. Does that mean I shouldn't ask questions or that I shouldn't be excited? No. All I'm saying is in this specific situation, she is showing more enthusiasm. Therefore, I don't need to. So she brings up this personality type, and I say I think it's BS though, depends on the day for me. Again, the reason that I'm sending short messages is because I know for a fact that my value is very, very high. My bio's killer, my pictures show high value, my IG shows high value, and my IG is linked to my profile. So if you look at this interaction, it's almost like she's speaking to a quote-unquote celebrity. I feel douchey saying this, but it's the only analogy I can think of. She is interacting with me, and she's kind of eager for me to respond, for me to hear my thoughts, because I have portrayed myself as someone that has high social value. I think it's BS though, depends on the day for me, and she says, it can be, it's not that black and white. And I say, yeah, that would just be us on a date. But she's white, I'm darker, us on a date would be black and white. Ha ha ha. And she says, but we ain't got that many tools to help us understand each other. And then I just ignore that, and I'm like, get it, black and white. And she's like, I'm not a dummy. I'm not used to American girls, okay? Cut me some slack. True, sorry. All right, so this is where we've gotten to the point of the conversation where I want to move off the app. I don't want to get too deep into a conversation here. So this is a line that I use. I say, so I'm actually about to delete Tinder. And now this is true because I'm deleting Tinder all the time to reset the algorithm. And so I actually was going to delete Tinder. And then she says, I have to ask you something first. And this is part of my script that I say, which is too distracting from work and I have ADD. This is in reference to deleting Tinder. So I'll say, I have to delete Tinder because it's too distracting from work and I have ADD. And then I say yes in response to her, I have to ask you something question. And she goes into this thread about something personal, and I'm not going to bring it up here. I don't want to give away any of her personal information or details. But basically, we have like a 3 to 4 message fluffy conversation. One of the things she mentioned was something about Trump sarcastically. So she says, when will they build the wall anyway? And this is a joke that she's making, guys. Don't get offended. This was a joke. But what I do here is I just go for the IG. She's trying to continue this thread, and I'm just like cutting her off and saying, do you have IG? When will they build the wall anyway? Let's chat there. And again, this is only happening because my value is high. If your value is extremely low and you're sending messages like this, it's not going to work. That's why it's so critically important to make sure that your bio is killer. And when it comes to bio, by the way, guys, I want you to be posting your bios in the comment section to get feedback from other members. It's so important to have a good bio. And it's even more important to have a good IG. And again, we'll talk about this later. Anyways, she gives me a shit test here, and she says, are you one of those social media addicts? I deleted social media. And I say, no, but I'm deleting this. Going back to my original thread, trying to get her IG. People were too needy over there. I'm deleting this because it's personal, but she says, people were too needy over there. They wanted so much of my attention, and my message box was always full of BS. WhatsApp is better anyway. And then she gives me a number, and I say, nice humble brag. So this is like one of those things where she was clearly trying to make herself sound cool by saying, oh my God, all these people are messaging me. I couldn't take it. And so I say, nice humble brag, calling her out on it. It's just kind of a funny thing to do. She says, thanks. And then she says, I hate people who demand attention unless they're funny. And then I try to do a stupid joke, and I say, listen, in all caps. And this listen joke is in reference to her saying, I hate people who demand attention. Listen. She says, to what? You didn't get it? Not that smart, huh? And she says this, but you seem funny, so that's why it's fine if you demand it a bit. Otherwise, I might withdraw. And then we continued over WhatsApp, and we actually dated for a bit. And she's a super, super cool girl. And when I asked her why she met up with me, she told me it was our text conversation on Tinder. And she went on to complain for 20 minutes about how boring most guys were on Tinder. But there's nothing really too crazy here, but it's very nuanced. It's coming from a place of high value. This whole conversation is just coming from a place of high value. And if you're having these high value conversations, you don't need to put in too much work because your high value is doing the work for you. Now, remember, this is a funnel and there should be a repeatable process that you can always use. You might not always have time to have conversations like this with everyone. So what I do, if I don't have too much time and I realize the girl probably needs more comfort before she can give me her IG or her phone number, is I will send a specific message. Once again, I was testing this opener. Don't recommend you use it. It's way too overplayed, but because my profile was so high value, I'm still getting responses from it. But again, we've tested it, not a great opener. But it just goes to show you that even with a shitty opener, if you crush it with your bio and your pictures and this high value frame, you can do really well. And this girl is so hot. Oh my God. I actually never met up with her because I left the city that she was in. I was only there for a short time and I regret it, but she was very, very attractive and she was a mom. She was a hot mom. Anyway, these two lines right here are what I send to women that I think need more comfort before going for the number. So I say, does this mean we're dating now? And she says, haha, maybe not yet. Now think about it like this. If I were to ask her right after this, cool, well, what's your IG? That would come across as a little bit uncalibrated. So instead I say, so what should I know about you? Drink, smoke, tattoos, Game of Thrones. This right here is a line from my buddy Jeffy. I actually don't know if he originated the line, but I do know that I heard him first say it. And so when we were testing everything, the way that we test stuff, by the way, is we aggregate a lot of stuff from the internet. So we'll look on Reddit, we'll look on 9gag, we'll look on places that you wouldn't even think, like even YouTube comments, for just funny lines, funny things that people say. We put those into a document, and then we also come up with a ton ourselves. But basically this giant document then serves as our testing platform, and we test everything. And this line right here just does the best when it comes to creating comfort. And so again, just copy paste. So what should I know about you? Drink, smoke, tattoos, Game of Thrones. I would change these questions to something that you actually are curious about. These are just things that we find funny. She says, I have a child and no tattoos, no Game of Thrones, no smoke. And so I'd say single mom, badass. But see, like, notice the frame. Don't really give a fuck, but also seem smart, seem cool. That's my vibe. Like, I'm not trying too hard. Single mom, badass. She says, yeah. Then I say, I was raised by one parent, pretty much, so I respect that, not easy. And then move on to IG. Do you have IG? Easier to chat there. And then she gives me her IG and we continue the conversation. What if she says no? This happens. If she doesn't give you her contact info, just take it slower. All you have to do is say, no problem, and then right here. So what should I know about you? Drink, smoke, tattoos, Game of Thrones. Just ask her some questions, get her to answer, and then from there, after you've established a little bit more comfort, ask her for the IG again. Now let's talk about the times it's not worth it. The truth is sometimes it's just not worth it to continue talking to girls on dating apps because, as my friend David would put it, they're super AIDSy. AIDSy is a term we use for describing something that just like sucks. So if someone's personality is just lacking, we say their personality was AIDS. And you will have these AIDS conversations. I can't believe I'm saying this. But as a high value man, you need to draw a line. And so if I'm chatting with a girl and I'm putting in effort, I'm asking her questions and I'm using things that usually get emotional highs, and she's just giving me one word answers, I'm not going to continue that conversation. Or I will say something, which I'll show you in a second, that is basically calling her out on it to see if that works. But usually I just end the conversation because I don't want to waste time with someone that thinks a one-word reply to a deep question or an interesting question is appropriate. Here's an example of it not being worth it. So read this conversation. Maria, so are we dating now? Her response is, ha 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 ha. That's it. Nothing else. And so I immediately go to Instagram because if I'm getting this shitty of a response, it might be because she just sucks at texting. This is actually a thing. Some girls just might be really bad at texting, but when you talk to them in real life, they're phenomenal. And so I just wanted to not engage with her on a platform where she might suck. And so I say, do you have Instagram? And she said, yes, but I would rather stay here until I know you for real. and I say, ha ha ha, understandable. So despite your super fascinating profile, what should I know about you? Her profile was empty. Big surprise. And then she says, don't know. I don't like texting. That was the last time we ever spoke. This is a situation where how is it worth it to continue talking to this girl? It's not. Just because she's hot? No. Remember, as a high-value man, you have to draw the line. That doesn't mean you insult her or say something super mean to her. Just stop talking to her. Now, every now and then, you might get the urge to call a girl out on being, quote-unquote, AIDSy. If you do it as a joke. And so this is the exact joke that I use, and feel free to steal this because it's hilarious. So I say, hey, Marlene, some of the girls in this app scare me, but for some reason, you seem chill. She responds with, haha. Already kind of a bad sign. So I go to, so what should I know about you? Drink, smoke, tattoos, Tomorrowland? Nothing. Haha. Okay, I might have to go to the hospital today. She says, why so? I injured my back trying to carry this conversation. Now, I delete my Tinder so often that I don't have this conversation anymore on my phone. But I did snap a screenshot of it when I first had the conversation, so I had it in my camera roll. But we actually ended up going on a date. She responded very enthusiastically. She laughed, and we met up like a month later. We became Instagram friends, and over time we met up. Which is also something very interesting about Instagram is once you add them, and even if they don't like you at first, they might meet up with you a month or 2 months later after you've shown social value through your stories and your pictures, but we'll get to that later. This is like a lighthearted way to call someone out. You don't want to actually seem butthurt, but saying something like this as a joke is a good way to call someone out while also being funny about it. And there's a chance it'll work. And there you have it. This is what to say after the opener. It's super simple, but it's also nuanced. And it really depends on how well you crushed your high-value frame throughout the rest of your funnel, especially IG, which we're going to get to very soon. The IG stuff is going to blow your mind. If you have any questions about what to say after your opening message, write them in the comments below. We read every single one. I will see you in the next video.